Right, so today I want to talk about freedom of speech and why the left opposes it so much. And just getting right into it, just for starters, you'll never really, I mean, you will the odd time, but you'll never hear, I guess you'll rarely hear someone on the left say the words, I oppose freedom of speech. It will always be, um, I support, or maybe they won't say they directly support it, but they'll say, this speech, I don't think there should be more immigration, or I think that we shouldn't have free health care, anything like that. They say, well, you can have free speech, but if you have this opinion, then we need to ban that, basically. And why this is so important is um, political dialogue nowadays is more and more being transitioned towards the internet, towards social media, stuff like that. And anybody who's been paying attention to this stuff realizes that they're becoming more and more censorious in their work. I know just recently, obviously being in the news, the whole Steven Crowder issue with Vox and all this stuff, but there's hundreds of channels that got demonetized, and this is becoming a real issue. And the big side issue with this is the people that are silent on it. A lot of people don't even notice it. And then there's the bit, like I always mention with a lot of this stuff, the what tips the scales towards, um, you know, maybe this side or that side getting what they want is the people in the middle. Because there's always going to be your people who are going to support something from the liberal or the conservative or whatever you want to call it perspective, no matter what. There's your people in the middle. There's your people who don't even notice, don't even care, and the people in the middle are what sway these something like this, and the people in the middle oftentimes are silent because whether it's, oh well, they have good intentions, or whatever you want to call it. And first of all, I don't think good intentions does not, communists had good intentions and they killed hundreds of millions of people, or over 100 million people in the 20th century. So good intentions doesn't mean anything if the outcome is either going to or very likely going to be bad. And getting back to why the left doesn't support free speech, it's very simple. Um, the more free, whatever you want to call it, free the market is with this kind of stuff goes, or the less likely they are to lose. It's very simple. I don't know why people confuse this kind of stuff. It's the same exact thing for gun control. They don't oppose gun control because it makes places safer. They oppose it because it conflicts with their view of running society. Free speech also conflicts with their view of running society because their way of running society is immoral and unethical by definition. And if you have free speech, well, then people are going to be able to call that out without threat of violence or anything against them, right? So that's pretty plain and simple when it comes to that stuff. Like, it's not confusing. I don't know why. That's another thing I really dislike about more centrists is that they'll very much confuse the topics, in that they'll be, oh, I'm a centrist because one of the big reasons, oh well, when it comes to these issues, it's not as black and white as what either side would have you think, and in reality, it is. I mean, not to say the conservatives are very perfect when it comes to this kind of stuff, because there's a lot of more of the neoconservatives that don't necessarily support free speech, um, namely Andrew Scheer in Canada. I think is a big. He's not exactly a Trudeau who out and out opposes free speech, but he's definitely not very doing a very good job promoting it. Um, but getting back into this stuff, the U.S. is the First Amendment, so I know there's a lot of people that are opposing it, but they're never going to lose it. So just getting right back into it, why the left opposes free speech is because when there's free speech, then people can actively express themselves. You can say, well, I don't think that we should have more immigration, which is a majority position in the West, so it's not even radical, but they think that it is. I don't think we should have free health care. I think we should have the Second Amendment and everything that comes with it. All that stuff you can have with free speech, and the left doesn't support that. Namely, the more to the left you go, I guess is a better way to put it. There's definitely people on the right who aren't supporters of free speech, and I think most people say it and they say yeah, and then you'll go to someone on the left and be like, should Tommy Robinson have the right to free speech? Should even racists should you get the right to free speech, right? Unless they're directly saying I'm going to go kill a black person or a Jew or whatever, they can say that, I don't think blacks are as I don't think blacks are or I think blacks are not as competent as whites or anything. I don't really know what racists say about that stuff nowadays, but you can say, no matter how racist something is, you can say that this group or that group or garbage or whatever. That's your right to say. If you're gonna call to violence, that's different. But so that's an easy way to tell if someone's for free speech. Figure out where their political leanings lie. Give them the most abhorrent thing that someone could possibly say that's the exact opposite, and ask them if someone should be able to freely speak that. And not only that, should they be able to freely speak that on YouTube, on Twitter, or wherever. And most of the time when they're on the left, they're going to say no. Some people on the right will say no, but I think anyone that looks at it even close to objectively would find out and should know that it's far more worse on the left. And like I said, the reasoning for that, they don't have good intentions. It's not an excuse. It's a horrible excuse, to be honest. It's because free speech conflicts with their way of running society. They want to have people forced to contribute taxes so they can have their free shit. They want to have people forced to go to public school and, highly incentivized, I wouldn't say forced to go to college, so they can indoctrinate people. And that stuff happens by default because that stuff's funded by taxes, so teachers and all this stuff are going to be a lot less likely to bring up issues of that conflict, or the conflict of interest, or clear conflict of interest. So that's about it as far as this video goes. I just wanted to bring this up because it's been in the news lately. It's a very important thing. I just made a video about why the left really disagrees with gun control about a couple weeks back, and again, it's the same thing. They have their cover reasons, which is the same thing for this. They'll have their cover reasons. It's, oh well, you're a racist, you're a Nazi, this or that. In reality, they're not. Racism is protected speech in the U.S. at least, and it should be in if you believe in freedom of speech, the concept, then racism in the spoken form is protected speech. If you're going to go beat up someone because of the color of their skin or something like that, then that's different, like I already said. But the spoken form, racism is protected speech. So even if they are, 99% of the time when they accuse someone of being racist, they're not. They're just pointing out racial IQ differences, that they don't want more immigration, which is a majority position. Racial IQ differences is science. I know the left always lectures people about that, even though they're wrong about most of it. But, like I said, that's about it as far as this video goes. I kind of rambled a little more there. If you liked it, make sure to hit that like and subscribe, and stay tuned for more.